God aften og velkommen til TV Nord. Det er fredag den 12. juni. Skal danskerne have mulighed for at se videofilm, der er anderledes end dem, der normalt lejes ud i videobutikkerne herhjemme? Det afgøres i Vesterlandsret på onsdag.
I 7 år har filmelskere haft mulighed for at lege usædvanlige film, både hvad angår kvalitet og indhold, her fra Laserdisken i Aalborg. I Laserdisken kan man i modsætning til en almindelig videoforretning finde utekstede film i deres originale format.
Her ser vi den samme film i 2 udgaver. Til højre ser vi den udgave på Laserdisk, som film oprindeligt er filmet. Vi kan se, at billedet nok er mindre, men der er mere med. I billedet til venstre, som er den normale udgave til videobånd og til tv, der mangler vi manden for eksempel. Her ser vi, at man bliver nødt til at panorere hen over scenen for at få det hele med. Den billedkomposition, som instruktør og fotograf meget omhyggeligt har planlagt til at fortælle historien, den bliver ødelagt. Et halvdistanceshot bliver til et nærbillede. 2, der snakker sammen, ser man måske kun den ene, og det samspil, der er imellem dem, det mister man.
Hans Christian Pedersen importerer sine Laserdiscs og får ud over de gængse også film hjem, som videobranchen normalt ikke interesserer sig for. Interessen har været stor, men da Hans Christian Pedersen sidste år også åbnede en afdeling i København, blev den etablerede videobranche for meget. Foreningen af danske videoprogramdistributører lagde sag an. Den mener, den har eneret på udlejning af videofilm til private. Vinder den sagen, vil det få betydning for udlejningen i hele Danmark.
Det betyder, at forbrugerne får ikke længere mulighed for at leje de film i den udgave, som film oprindeligt var lavet. Instruktørerne får ikke mulighed for at præsentere de film på den måde, som de gerne vil have. Så det er ikke kun et spørgsmål om min forretning, det er også et spørgsmål om, at forbrugerne får lov at vælge den film, og at kunstnerne får lov at vise den udgave, som de gerne vil vise.
Hans Christian Pedersen har netop udgivet en bog om hans kamp mod videogiganterne.
Ejeren af Laserdisken i Aalborg er oppe mod de tunge drenge i videobranchen. I dag fortsatte han kampen ved retten. Han kæmper for at have lov til at sælge og udleje film på Laserdisk, også kaldet video-CD.
Ejeren af Laserdisken var i dag i Vestre Landsret i Viborg. Modparten var foreningen af danske videogramdistributører. Videoimportørerne holder på, at de har eneret på film til udlejning.
Til at starte med vil de forhindre mig i at sælge og udleje Laserdisk. Men kravet går i øjeblikket på at udleje Laserdisk. Det ønsker de ikke, at jeg skal gøre.
Men hvorfor vil de ikke have det?
Laserdisk er en anden måde at se film på, og det er en konkurrence til de videobånd, som de udgiver. Og de vil gerne have monopol på det i Danmark.
Laserdisken giver filmelskere mulighed for at se filmene i den ubeskårede biografudgave. På Laserdisk er billedkvaliteten desuden bedre. Det er en vare, som de organiserede filmimportører slet ikke tilbyder til private.
I har en tilladelse til at producere og udgive videobånd med danske undertekster. Den produktionsret, den mener de forhindrer mig i at kunne udleje ting, som ikke stammer fra dem.
Når Laserdisken sælger film på CD, er de i den oprindelige brede format fra biografen, som det her ses for neden. Øverst til venstre ses den beskårne videoudgave. Det er typisk, at under samtalen er den lyttende barberet væk, ofte til instruktørens ærgelse. Udover film i den oprindelige udgave, tilbyder Laserdisken også film, importørerne slet ikke skaffer til Danmark. Alle er uden danske undertekster og fra udenlandske leverandører.
For inden jeg begyndte at udleje de her Laserdiscs, der gik jeg til den engelske udgiver og licenshaver. Og jeg spurgte dem, om de havde noget imod at udleje deres plader i Danmark, og det havde de ikke. Og jeg fik en skriftlig bekræftelse på det.
Sagen handler om varers fri bevægelighed over grænser, men også om ophavsret. Hans Christian Pedersen mener, at importørernes advokat fordrejer paragraferne efter behov. Men også Kulturministeriet har været inddraget i sagen.
Der er sagen lidt kompliceret, fordi Johannes Lytter fører sagen for de danske videoselskaber. Han bliver samtidig benyttet af Kulturministeriet som deres konsulent, og han har på forhånd sikret sig Kulturministeriets støtte til, at kun de danske videoselskaber må udleje videobånd.
I februar var sagen for retten i Aalborg. Her fik videodistributørerne nedlagt fogedforbud mod at Laserdisken udlejer video-CD'er. Men foreningen måtte stille 1 million kroner i sikkerhed. Da sagen blev indbragt for landsretten, blev fogedforbuddet mod udlejning ophævet. Det er usædvanligt, og før dagens retsmøde så Hans Christian Pedersen frem til landsrettens afgørelse.
Det dokumentationsmateriale, vi har til landsretten, det er meget, meget bedre end det, vi havde ved fogedretten i Aalborg. Vi fik udleveret dokumentationsmateriale i Aalborg dagen før vi skulle i retten. Det har vi haft tid til at gennemse, og på baggrund af det kæreskrift, vi sendte til landsretten, hævede de det fogedforbud, vi først fik i byretten i Aalborg. Det fogedforbud, som kostede videogramdistributørerne 1 million kroner at få. Så på den baggrund, så tror jeg har gode chancer i landsretten.
Hans Christian Petersen har netop fået udgivet en bog om forholdene i videobranchen med titlen Sådan tjener man 1 milliard. Efter dagens retsmøde i Viborg vil dommeren bruge nogen tid til at overveje sagen, før dommen bliver afsagt.
Filminstruktørerne må ofte finde sig i, at deres film bliver ændret, når de vises på tv eller bliver udgivet på videobånd. Det går altid ud over den kunstneriske kvalitet, og det er ikke noget, instruktørerne bryder sig om. For eksempel har sammenslutningen af danske filminstruktører på vegne af filminstruktøren Sidney Pollack lagt sag an imod Danmarks Radio, der viste hans film 3 Days for Condor i en version, hvor halvdelen af billedet var skåret væk. Filminstruktørerne kan sjældent forhindre, at deres film bliver ændret af kommercielle hensyn. Til gengæld får flere og flere instruktører deres film udgivet på Laserdisc videosystemet i deres oprindelige udgave. Også Sidney Pollacks film 3 Days for Condor er udgivet på Laserdisc i den version, Sidney Pollack ønskede. Kulturministeriet og de danske videoselskaber forsøger imidlertid at forhindre, at disse udgaver tilbydes den danske befolkning. De efterfølgende 7 filmklip illustrerer, hvordan film bliver behandlet på Laserdisc-systemet. Alle klip stammer fra Laserdisc. Ingen af disse versioner er udgivet af de danske videoselskaber, som alligevel fastholder deres monopol på videoudlejning i Danmark. Robert Wise fortæller om hans udgave af West Side Story på Laserdisc.
Hello, I'm Robert Wise. I directed West Side Story with Jerome Robbins. What you are about to see is a first-time event in home video. This picture was photographed in the 70mm Super Panavision process, a practice that has been virtually retired for 20 years. Through new technology, this film has been mastered to video directly from the original 70mm elements in its original widescreen aspect ratio. I personally oversaw this transfer, and I'm extremely pleased with the results. Truly, West Side Story has never looked this good on video. I invite you now to sit back and enjoy West Side Story.
Steven Spielberg fortæller om Close Encounters på Laserdisc.
I do as much storytelling within my frame as I think a writer does when he, as in this case, when I wrote the script, and try to tell a beginning, middle, and end, 3 acts. I put a lot of information into the frame. And often on television, when our widescreen Panavision movies are panned and scanned, you're only seeing half a movie. You're only seeing the pertinent information, usually the actors who are talking and they're performing, and the information is being transmitted through their dialogue and through their emotions. But you don't see a lot of what I'm trying to do as a director, because the information that's on the left side of the frame, you're just not seeing because your TV set's a square. And you're missing out on composition, which is also a form of storytelling. Where the mountain, Devil's Tower is, juxtaposed to where the people are standing. If it's important that you see Devil's Tower next to the people, the camera on television, on normal television, has to electronically either pan over to show the tower, which is a pan I never intended to do as I directed the film, or you make an electronic cut or an edit, and you flick over to the left side of the frame, and I never intended a cut to be made there, which takes the rhythm of the scene and just ruins it.
For how long?
Once the
All of you?
toxic concentration is down to 50 parts
No,
per million,
Ronnie.
then the danger will be passed.
I want to talk
This
about
means
this
that
in
most
person.
residents will be back in their own
This is
homes
not.
by the
We
weekend.
can't talk about this on the
Of course,
telephone.
small consolation to
All
the
right.
livestock in the area.
Ronnie,
Although ranchers
what?
have been notified
Don't
that
hang
the
up, just
quality
don't-
of meat should remain unaffected. This means order your steak well done, Walter.
Devil's Tower, Wyoming was the first national monument erected in this country by Theodore Roosevelt in 1915.
Thousands of civilian refugees are fleeing the area spurred on by rumors that the 7 tanker cars that overturned at Wakashi Needle Junction were filled to capacity with GM nerve gas. In just a few minutes, we're going to be...
An annual surge of close to 400,000 vacationers. Unfortunately, during this mishap, there have been no fatalities.
Forced to evacuate this area, which in a few minutes is going to become known as the hot zone, depending on the prevailing winds. But as it is, this is as close to the disaster as we've been allowed to get.
På visse laserdiskudgaver har hver enkelt billede sit eget billednummer og kan studeres separat. Stillbilleder kan kombineres med videosekvenser og således illustrere filmens tilblivelse i form af manuskriptuddrag, skitser, storyboards, instruktørens notater, prøveoptagelser og lignende. Denne laserdiskudgave indeholder over 1000 stillbilleder, der illustrerer tilblivelsen af nærkontakt af 3. grad. På videosekvenserne kan benyttes op til 4 separate lydspor. I næste eksempel hører vi den venstre kanal på det analoge lydspor.
In the sequence, when the mothership lands and the little extraterrestrials first come out, it was described in the script as a very elaborate thing. First they came out, they looked at us, they flew around everywhere, they did all these special things. It turned out in the movie it was enough to catch an occasional glimpse of them. You didn't really want to see them too closely, except for the articulated figure, which we did months and months later in California when Rambaldi made the special audio animatronic figure of the extraterrestrial that really does look kind of like E.T. in the next movie. But originally when they came out, they had on heads with radio-controlled eyes that moved around, but they didn't do too much else other than that. Now, in order to put these, to make these things come to life, the thing that they could think of to do was you didn't want to get little people, you didn't want to get midgets or dwarves because they wanted spindly bodies that were kind of elongated. So they hired very thin 6-year-old dance students from Mobile, Alabama. They rated, you know, like Miss Lotus's Saturday afternoon tea party and stuff, and suddenly these kids were in show business. So I remember when they used to come in to audition, mostly they had to be thin and follow directions, and 6 is very young to be shooting in a movie. So they had to really have pretty good concentration. And there were like 75 stage mothers with these 75 very delightful little children, but the mothers were always like, well, is my daughter going to be in the front of the line or the back of the line, and who's going to be the one who flies more? And, you know, it was really very tough. And they hired a very wonderful woman named Susan Heldfond to choreograph these little beings. She developed a way that they walked and moved and did all sorts of little things. And she used to say, quick hands and feet, quick hands and feet. And suddenly the children had to go like this all over the place to be the extraterrestrial.
Here in the Paramount Director Series is Leonard Nimoy on directing and Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home.
Captain's log, stardate 8390. We're in the 3rd month of our Vulcan exile, and it was Dr. McCoy with a fine sense of historical irony who decided on a name for our captured Klingon vessel.
Preparing a story for Star Trek IV, I spent some time with some great scientific minds around the country, and I had some wonderful times with them. To hear these people talk about their concerns for the future of the planet, what they're interested in, what they're watching for, I began to become aware that there was one common concern amongst them all, and that has to do with the ecological system on this planet, the fact that we are losing thousands of species per year. And I began to see it as a kind of a house of cards, this ecological system on this planet of ours, where if you build a house of cards, you could take a card away and the house might stand up. You might take another card away and the house might continue to stand and so forth, until you reach the point where you pull what is known as a keystone card. You pull that card and the whole thing begins to collapse. And we might someday reach that point where one of these species becomes a keystone and the ecological system starts to come undone. And this led to the idea of us coming back in time to the 20th century to try to recapture, to try to revitalize a species that had been lost in the 23rd century and was causing a problem. When we struck upon the idea of the whales being endangered and the size of them, the magic of them, and the mystery of their song, the whale's song, which we know about but don't really quite understand, it seemed like we had found a wonderful vehicle for telling this story in Star Trek IV. When you watch a movie on your television screen, you're not necessarily seeing it the way it was originally intended. If, for example, it was shot for the wide screen, that film has to be readjusted in some way to fit the specific shape of the video tube that you're looking at. As a director, when I set up a shot, let's say there are two people in the scene, and one is at one side of the room and one is at the other. With the wide screen, I can hold both, and one is at each end of the frame. When that shot is condensed to fit on your TV tube, chances are the camera cannot hold both of those actors at the same time. So a choice is made usually to be on the one who's talking and then move across the room with the camera to get to the other one when that person is talking, and not being able to hold both, you can't see the reaction from side to side. Now that may not be the choice that I made when I set up the shot, because I want you as the audience to see the person talking and the person who's listening as well. When the picture is changed to fit the small tube, you can't hold both, and the intent of the scene is sometimes changed as a result.
Here in the Paramount Director Series is Adrian Lyne on directing and Fatal Attraction.
When I first read James Dearden's script of Fatal Attraction, I was in France. And I sat down on some steps in the house and I started to read it. And an hour and a half later, I was still sitting on the steps reading it, finishing it. And it was a page-turner. It was wonderful. But I really had no reason to believe that it would be the success it has been. When I shoot a movie, I shoot the movie widescreen, which is 1:8:5. When it's projected on television, it goes to kind of almost a square format. So all of the careful framing and the trouble that you've gone to when you shot the movie really goes out of the window. When we changed the ending of the movie that everybody talked about a lot, with the new ending, we lost probably Anne Archer's strongest scene. And she was, I think, quite rightly, quite upset about it.
Just get out! Just get the fuck out! No, just get the fuck out! Go! Just get out of here. I want you out.
Good, that's real good. Now sit down.
I keep going up on the line.
Sit down. Don't worry about it. Sit down.
There's been a lot of discussion about the original ending of Fatal Attraction. The movie that you're going to see now is the movie that you probably saw in the theater, except that now for the home we have the widescreen format on video. After that, I'm going to show you the other ending, and you can be the judge.
Following the full-length feature presentation of Fatal Attraction, Adrian Lyne will be back to introduce the entire, never-before-seen, original ending of the movie.
De ekstra lydspor på en laserdiskplade kan benyttes til at lade en filmhistoriker, en filmanalytiker eller filminstruktøren selv fortælle om filmens tilblivelse eller teknik, imens man følger billederne fra filmen, som for eksempel på laserdiskudgaven af The Graduate.
But please, Mrs. Robinson, this is difficult.
Would you like me to seduce you?
What?
Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Like all human beings, the hero can have one of two reactions to danger, flight or fight. In comedies, the process often begins with flight and then in the second act moves into the fight. The sequence can never be reversed if the film aspires to win a large audience. There's an interesting use of vertical space here, as the camera tilts down to reveal the black banister, the black carpet, and the diminutive boy below.
Mrs. Robinson?
By now you've noticed what the pattern of laughs in this film reveals. The Graduate is a situation comedy. The biggest laughs come not from lines that are witty or funny in themselves, nor generally from sight gags, but rather from the situation that our protagonist finds himself in. The camera that escorted Mrs. Robinson out the door has remained stationary for quite a long time now, waiting, as she does, like a spider in the center of its web. In a moment, the camera will pull back to let the victim enter into the trap so that it can, with exquisite timing, be sprung. That nude body that Hoffman does a triple take on first appeared, significantly, in the reflection in Elaine's portrait. And as it did, the key density of the light rose so that we could clearly see its reflection. And now I feel obligated to tell you something. That's not Anne Bancroft. That's a body double, a stand-in. If you want to check it out for yourself, go ahead. But I've already studied these 3- and 4-frame cuts at great length, in the interest of science, and I can tell you, it's not her. A macro lens gives us deep focus so that Hoffman can rush up, do a 360-degree turn, go back again, and sit down just in time for Mr. Robinson's entrance. Mr. Robinson is a foil character. His function is to reflect on other characters. After a few minutes with him, we understand Mrs. Robinson's behavior much better. For those of you who have the quaint idea that films have some necessary connection to reality, can you explain why? If Mr. Braddock has been partners and best friends with Ben's father for 20 years, he wasn't at the party honoring Braddock's only begotten son? Or why he's wearing sunglasses in the middle of the night? The answer to the question, like so many in film, stems not from plausible behavior of real people, but from the need to tell an effective story. The story demanded his sudden return home from a game of golf, just as things got interesting in the seduction scene. Who demanded the sunglasses escapes me. It's important to the success of the story that we not feel too much sympathy for the cuckolded Mr. Robinson. That's the reason for this running gag with the scotch and the bourbon. Not only doesn't Mr. Robinson seem to know what's going on right in front of his face, he doesn't bother to listen when people tell him what they want. It's hard to feel sorry for such a jerk. In fairness, of course, we have to note that Ben just accepts this drink from Robinson, the same passive way he first rejected and then accepted the drink from his wife. Ben now returns to the shadows. Again, the widescreen format is used to give us 2 characters at opposing ends of the screen, with the mass of the frame out of focus, in this case waiting for Mrs. Robinson's re-entrance. The depth of field here is used with telling effect. Throughout The Graduate, the space that is out of focus is as important, and often more telling, than the space that is in focus. As he takes out a cigar, notice how that familiar object functions as a bit of theatrical business. Not only does Robinson light this smelly stogie in this immaculately manicured house, he will spit the end of it onto the floor, an act not exactly calculated to increase our empathy for him. Such touches prevent us from identifying with his character. We have to be licensed, that is, given permission, to accept the affair between Mrs. Robinson and Ben. And that's the function of this scene.
Ronald Haver fortæller om tilblivelsen af Casablanca.
Hello, this is Ronald Haver, and I'd like to tell you about the making of Casablanca, one of the greatest romantic melodramas ever to come out of Hollywood. Actually, it was produced in Burbank, California, at the Warner Brothers Studios in 1942, just a few months after the attack on Pearl Harbor, which forced the United States into World War II. I'll be telling you about the many people whose talent and craftsmanship shaped Casablanca into the classic that it is. Over the last 15 years, I've interviewed a number of these people, talking with them about their work on Casablanca, and these interviews have been supplemented with research into the Warner Brothers studio files on the making of the film, which has given me a pretty detailed knowledge of the way the picture took shape. What I'd like to do on this Criterion edition is to relate a chronological history of the film, examining and explaining all the artistic, personal, and historic forces that affected the making of the picture, from the writing through the editing, so that you might have a clearer understanding of just how the elements of movie making were fused together by these people to create this timeless masterpiece. Now, the scene that's coming up, the singing of the Marseillaise, was lifted intact from the original play. There was one slight problem with filming the scene. In the play, the Nazis had sung Wacht am Rhein, which means watch on the Rhine, and this had been incorporated intact into the film script. However, as Eisner and others pointed out, it was against the principles of the Nazi Party to sing this song. The only 2 authorized nationalistic songs in Germany were the Horst Wessel song and Deutschland über alles. When this was pointed out to Wallace, he replied that it didn't matter if it was technically correct. and that if it irritated the Germans, all the better. One of the elements that gives Casablanca its emotional impact and its effectiveness is the fact that many of the people in the film were directly affected by the war. In this scene, for instance, most of the extras were real refugees from the Nazis, and their heartfelt singing of the Marseillaise gives the scene an impact that no group of Hollywood extras could deliver. Madeleine LeBeau, for instance, who plays Yvonne, fled Paris in 1940 when the Nazis entered. It took her a year to get out of Europe via Lisbon and a Chilean visa, which she bought on the black market and which turned out to be fraudulent, a fact she discovered while en route to Veracruz, Mexico. She managed to obtain a temporary residency in Canada, then finally entered the United States, making her way to Hollywood, where her French film work enabled her to get a contract with Warner Brothers. Casablanca was her first film in this country, and the Marseillaise scene was particularly emotionally wrenching for her. Those were real tears you saw her crying in those close-ups.
Danny DeVito fortæller om The War of the Roses.
Hi. From watching the early comedies that I love, I came to the conclusion that a good comedy shouldn't be too long. It shouldn't run more than an hour and a half. If it runs an hour and 40 minutes, or an hour and 50 minutes, you're going to be squirming in your seats. The War of the Roses runs an hour and 56 minutes. Obviously, a comedy with dick biting and death is going to break some rules. Our first assembly of the picture was 3 hours and 4 minutes long. And to tell you the truth, the reason we cut so much out of the film had nothing to do with the quality of the film, which was wonderful. It was because of our genuine concern over your attention span. But now that you've had a little break, come with me. Ah, the old editing room floor. Here are a few tidbits that didn't make it into the final cut. Let me just scoop some up for posterity. Put it in the machine. All right, here we go. Oh, yeah, that's quick. All right. Pretty fast, huh? Here we go. One of the mysteries of filmmaking is that you can look at these scenes and it takes you just one viewing to realize they don't belong in the movie. So why did it take me the better part of a year to get the message? Ah, well, there's nothing like an imponderable. So, I look forward to my next adventure in the cutting room. Until then, adieu, hardcore disc maniacs. Adieu.
Danny!
Huh?
You've milked this movie to death. It's time to get on with your life already.
Okay, I just finished.
Hi, Daddy! Hi, Daddy!
God, you've grown. Hi, Rhea. You mean there's 3 of them?
Den frie spredningsret af disse laserdiscs er sikret af Berner-konventionen i de lande, som har tilsluttet sig konventionen, med undtagelse af Danmark. Kulturministeriet og de danske videoselskaber vil ikke tillade udlejning af laserdiscs i Danmark. I Danmark må man kun udleje de videobånd, som er udgivet af de danske selskaber. Hvorfor? Er det af hensyn til kunstnerne? Er det af hensyn til forbrugerne? Er det af hensyn til folkeoplysningen? Laserdisken er af den opfattelse, at denne særlige beskyttelse af de danske videoselskaber er i strid med EF-bestemmelserne om fri konkurrence. Laserdisken er af den opfattelse, at de danske videoselskaber, der er sammensluttet i Foreningen af Danske Videogramdistributører, med deres håndhævelse af monopolet, overtræder det europæiske økonomiske fællesskabs artikel 85. Alle aftaler mellem virksomheder eller vedtagelser inden for sammenslutninger i virksomheder og alle former for samordnet praksis, der kan påvirke handlen mellem medlemsstater, og som har til formål eller til følge at hindre, begrænse eller fordreje konkurrencen inden for fællesmarkedet, er uforenelige med fællesmarkedet og er forbudt, navnlig sådanne som består i opdeling af markeder eller forsyningskilder. Laserdisken er af den opfattelse, at de danske videoselskaber misbruger deres ret til produktion af tekstede film til at forhindre konkurrence fra et teknisk bedre videosystem, som de ikke selv udgiver, og således overtræder det europæiske økonomiske fællesskabs artikel 86. En eller flere virksomheders misbrug af en dominerende stilling på fællesmarkedet, eller en væsentlig del heraf, er uforenelig med fællesmarkedet og forbudt i den udstrækning samhandel mellem medlemsstaterne herved kan påvirkes. Misbrug kan især bestå i begrænsning af produktion, afsætning eller teknisk udvikling til skade for forbrugerne. Laserdisken er af den opfattelse, at den danske stat i 1989 ved indførelse af ophavsretslovens paragraf 23 stk. 3 i Kulturministeriets fortolkning, der udelukker udenlandske videoudgivelser, overtrådte det europæiske fællesskabs artikel 90. Medlemsstaterne afstår, for så vidt angår offentlige virksomheder, og virksomheder, som de indrømmer særlige eller eksklusive rettigheder, fra at træffe eller opretholde foranstaltninger, som er i strid med denne traktats bestemmelser, navnligt i artiklerne 7 og 85-94 nævnte. Læs i denne bog om videobranchen i Danmark og udlandet, og om den danske videobranches særlige indflydelse på Kulturministeriet.